This is super exciting. We welcome to Bull in the Basement for the first time ever. One of my best friends, Brian Moorman, former Bill, whose resume, I mean, listen, if you're a Bill fan, you know Brian Moorman. And before I even get to your resume, I got to ask you, and I never have. This is crazy. I never asked you because I know you well. Did you ever have braces growing up? Because you have perfect teeth, dude. Like you have the best, you have the best smile ever. And I never asked you that, and I should have. I don't know why.
Actually, no, I didn't. And it's funny you bring that up because we're going through that now discussion of whether or not to do that for our son Cooper. So we just had that meeting with the dentist, and luckily he said no for him. But it's kind of probably around the same thing. I did have like a retainer,
Okay.
but I pretty much lost that in my lunch every day at the lunch line, threw it in the garbage or whatever, like every typical boy. So got in trouble when I went home, and mom said, "Where's your retainer?" I'm like, "Oh." But yeah, that was it pretty much. I got lucky.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, you did. No, I mean, one of the best smiles in the business for sure. But let's go to your resume, and most people know it. NFL 2000s all-decade team. I mean, you should be so freaking proud of your football career, man. That all by itself is incredible. Two-time Pro Bowler, two-time first team All-Pro. 50th anniversary Bills team. I mean, these are incredible things. Obviously, locally you founded the Punt Foundation, which has done incredible things. Your college career, the Pittsburgh State Gorillas, right?
That is correct.
Pittsburgh State, Kansas. I'm gonna get into that a little bit later because I want to ask you how you became a punter. Not now, but in a little bit, because I just don't know how that happens. You went to the Berlin Thunder in the World League, which I'm sure was an incredible whirlwind for you. Almost like you're on summer vacation playing football, I'm imagining is probably what it was sort of like. So I'll ask you about that. Seahawks originally get you in the league. You go to the Bills, you go to the Steelers for a second for a cup of coffee. The Cowboys the same, end up with the Bills. Now you never, because I don't recall this, but you never like formally retired. So you're still eligible to get back, right?
Well, I guess anybody is technically eligible. I think they kind of retire you after a certain amount of time, but no, I never did actually quote sign the papers. And it's not like I was trying to hang on or anything. It was just, when I left the Bills the last time, they're like, "Hey, we'll do a press conference for you. You can get up and you can retire." I'm like, I don't need all that, man. I just, and if somebody wants me to come punt a couple games, I'll come punt a couple games. So I appreciate the gesture, but I don't need a press conference. Thanks. They were good, but now would I come back and do that whole, okay, I'll sign a deal for a day and, be fun. But, like I said, it's never been something I always needed.
Yeah. And that was your MO when you were here for sure. I mean, selfless guy for sure, in terms of your playing days here in Buffalo and why you were so beloved by the fan base. So we're going to get into, and one last thing very quickly, can you still, because if there were, and there aren't to my knowledge, but if there were male Rockettes, you could be one.
With one leg, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, this is great. I'll never forget I believe it was your 40th birthday party. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it might've been at Ellicottville Brewing Company. And I believe that you were doing these leg kicks that no 40-year-old should ever do in their life.
Well, yes, I hate to say it was already 5 years ago, but they could still be done. Yeah.
It's amazing.
But yeah, I actually went out, some of you might remember, people listening or whatever, Mike Hollis kicked for a year with us in Buffalo in 2002, and he still does kicking for young kids with a kicking clinic and so forth, and a business, pro form kicking, if anybody's looking for their kids. And he did a nice camp for girls for kicking. It's called the Laces Out Foundation. So I went out and helped them out one day and took the boots, strapped them on, and booted a few. And I was actually pretty pleased, considering I hadn't picked up a football in quite some time. So, it was fun. So yeah, the leg can still get up there.
Well, and the other thing too about you is you're a workout junkie. I mean, we've seen some ex-Bills blow up, right? And we've seen other ex-Bills shrink incredibly. Eric Wood's a good example. You were always a super lean guy. Like, what was your body fat when you played that you can recall?
Well, it's funny because Ciano and Rusty Jones and all the other strength coaches I had while we were there, not many, but they always gave me a hard time about that. But we had that bod pod where you'd have to get in, and At one time I think I was like 2 or 3%, but I never did believe that thing. I felt like that one was a little old. I think Rusty had it for too long. But I took it whenever he told me. But then we got a new one and I was around the 6% range, but I don't want to get in now, but I still feel like I'm in pretty good shape. I mean, I still try and work out 4 or 5 times a week. It's not like I used to. I mean, I never did really hit the weights that much. I was more of a runner, like to do sprints. And so I still try and do interval sprints and whatnot. And, I might feel like I'm going fast now, but it's, I try not to put a stopwatch on it because I know it's nothing like it used to be by any means. And I did pull my hamstring for the first time about a month ago.
No kidding.
So I was out a couple of weeks. Yeah, that was the first time. Yeah. When I went back to Pittsburgh State and ran around the track a little bit, and I was like, I can't keep up anymore. So I had to stop.
So I am last I checked, I'm 46% body fat. So if you need any, I'm willing to donate. If you feel like you're a little light right now, I'm willing to donate. So
you just keep up with your age. Is that what it is?
Well, not thank you for that. Not quite, but thank you. No, I appreciate that. So let's get into, so you're speaking of track, you were a track guy at Pittsburgh State with the Gorillas, and you had, do you still hold records there for track?
Still holding on to one. Yeah. There's a hurdler that he's trying his best to beat it, but it's funny because actually myself and my former roommate and college teammate, James McCarty, we both hold the exact same time, the 13.8 in the high hurdles. And so we still have our name up there, but I think the young guy ran a 13.81 or 13.83 last year. And I thought we got away. I mean, and we're like, okay, we're going to hold on another year because he was a 6th-year senior. He had another year because of COVID or whatever, but they gave him a 7th.
Come on,
he's going to have another year. Yeah. So he's going to get another shot at it. But, and I'm rooting him on. I mean, come on, records are made to be broken, and I hope he gets it, and I hope he wins a national title.
And you were an All-American multiple years in track in college. Yeah. So I looked up your 400-meter hurdle best time.
Sure.
And I'm sure you watched the Olympics and saw that the kid run the 400-meter hurdle and break. Didn't he break the world record twice? Like once in the semi and then once in the final. And
I think in the final, both first and second broke the world record.
That's right.
Yeah, which is absolutely crazy. I mean, the world record holder was Kevin Young. I ran against him when I was in college at the U.S. Championships, which was a non-Olympic year. So I qualified for those and got to go down to New Orleans and run on that. I made the semifinals. I made the semifinals the year before. I ran them twice. I made the semifinals one year. That when they were in New Orleans, it was about 106 degrees and about 150% humidity, I think. And you'd think I'd be ready for that from Kansas, but I wasn't. And I took out like I was going to break the world record. And about the 200-meter mark, I felt like I was walking across the finish line at 400, but I still ran almost a personal best, which was crazy. So, but that being said, I mean, Kevin Young ran, and it was humbling. He was very, very good.
Well,
but those guys they're out of their mind.
Yeah, talk about it. So your personal best that I looked up earlier, 49.77, the Olympic record that was just set, 45.94, almost 4 seconds faster in just 20-ish years, right? I mean, man, it's unreal. And I mean, they were running in the 40. I think the world record before Kevin Young was that 46.7? I can't remember off the top of my head. But that being said, I mean, 4 seconds, almost 4 seconds, I would still be probably going over the last hurdle. If it were my personal best. And I still feel like, I think I could have ran low 49s, high 48s if I'd have trained year round and actually stayed healthy and everything else. But that was probably about what I would have in me. But those guys, they're super talented, and it was enjoyable to watch. And they're not football players.
They're not football players,
right?
No.
Right. Yeah. That's all they do is track. You were a two-sport star, man.
Come on. That's I didn't get a chance to, but I don't know that I would have been able to stay healthy had I done it all. One full year of track, and that was one thing about my track coach in college. He understood me well, and he was able to help me stay healthy with my hamstrings and all that stuff, and being able to not do. He made me swear to secrecy while he was still coaching, which he just retired after this season, which hard to see because he's an awesome coach and great for Pitt State, but yeah, he made me swear I would never tell the other kids that fall conditioning didn't really pay off for me. I just played football, and then I came out and ran track in the spring. So it worked well for my body, but it didn't allow me to probably be in the shape I needed to be in to be, elite. I mean, so to speak.
So as good as you were, so we'll segue because I'm kind of going off my own script, which is fine.
Sure.
Because that's kind of what we do with Bull in the Basement here. So at what point, because you were a really good, like you were All-American punter, right? I mean, was it D2 or one
Division
AA?
II, yeah.
D2. Okay.
No, Division II. Yeah.
So you were All-American Division II. At what point, I mean, had you hired an agent? Like at what point was there some sort of a thought process to think, wow, I could be doing this on Sunday?
Well, I don't know that I ever really put that into my thought process, except, I do tell a story that after my first year of football, which was in 95, I didn't play in 94, my first year of college. Actually, when I got there, they had weird rules with the NCAA, and I took a track scholarship because it was important to me coming out of high school to get a sports scholarship is what I worked towards. And, I had offers to walk on at some schools as a punter. Not really sure why, looking back, I really wasn't that good. And then I had some offers in smaller schools to play quarterback. But when Coach Jewett recruited me to run track, and he gave me a decent scholarship, that was, something I've been working towards. And I decided to go the track route, but I couldn't walk onto the football team because they'd used all their money already or something like that. And those rules have all changed now. But they said, come walk on the next year. So that was my intention. I was going to walk on as a quarterback. And then I went and broke my wrist my first year, fell over a hurdle. And I had surgery and everything else. So I started kicking again, which I did in high school. And then I walked on as a kicker. And then they didn't have a punter. So I just started punting. And so I ended up, there was 9 guys walking on as a kicker. And I was like, well, I'll kick off and punt. And there was nobody else. And it just worked out. About halfway through the season, I decided I'd start playing receiver, and I started moving up the chart or whatever. And then I promptly jammed my wrist against a DB and bent it back. And I was like, oh no, coach is going to kill me if I can't run track again. So I said, that's enough of that, and never did it again. I just punted.
Which is interesting because most people wouldn't think that a wrist would come into play when you're running track.
No, but I had a cast up to here. So I was one little wrist bone. I had a cast to here. So I sat out and he said it wouldn't heal if I jarred around, and it didn't heal anyway. So I should have just ran that here. It's still busted. I've got arthritis. I played my whole NFL career. I can't bend my wrist further than that. I had to kind of tweak how I'd hold the football. And had I taken, actually one time in Europe, I was playing in Amsterdam and I went to make a tackle and I fell on it and it bent it all the way back. And I mean, I couldn't move it for 3 days. I thought I was done then. And so it would have just taken one fall, one tackle. And I was kind of surprised they ever even passed me on a physical, but they always let me through.
Good for you. It worked out well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you played quarterback. Did you play, I don't know why I think this, and correct me if I'm wrong. Did you play 8-man football?
I did.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah.
So for people that aren't familiar with 8-man football, kind of explain like how the offenses and defenses are set up, and is it a smaller field and all of that stuff? Because most people obviously here in Western New York probably don't know anything about it.
I'd be curious to know if there is 8-man football in Western New York or New York at all. Maybe there is. I'd have to look, but there's still some in Kansas. And believe it or not, I mean, you may not know it, and some people may, but there's 6-man football in some places, or at least there used to be. And so we played 8-man. It was a 80-yard field instead of 100. It was 40 yards wide instead of 53 or whatever. And so, it's a faster game, and, depending on the teams, but we would just line up 2 tight ends, and, you'd have a center, 2 guards, 2 tight ends, and then we'd split out every once in a while, and we may split out a tailback or rarely would go 4 wides or anything. But, it was funny because that was kind of when I started seeing towards the end of my high school career, some 8-man teams really just spreading it out. There was actually a guy that came and ran track with me at Pitt State. He played for a high school, Norwich High School, which they really spread out their offense. And that was, it was hard to defend. So we started doing that towards the end of my high school career. But really we were kind of a grinded. My coach, high school coach was, the old school, we're going to dig it and, go down in the trenches and we're going to run the football. And so we ran the trap game, and, we ran quarterback trap tailback trap, fullback. And then that was kind of our main thing until I got a little older, and then we started passing a lot more. So that was, and then the offensive coordinator we had, he eventually just turned over the reins to me, and I called all the plays my senior year.
Come on.
So yeah, that was pretty cool. So we would work together, and I'd come up with a script before the game and go over it with them. And then, so, I mean, I can still remember a lot of the plays. They'd script the first ones. We'd run down and always score up to the first, because nobody could ever defend what we were doing. And then it was like trying to call during the game, and you just call your favorite plays. But it went pretty well. We made the playoffs the last 2 years, and it was good fun.
When you were pro, were you ever in any of the OC's ears and say, listen, I was a play caller?
No.
A very successful one.
I wish I could say that. I always love to pick Nathaniel Hackett's brain. He's one of my best friends, and I think a brilliant mind. And he's going to be an up and comer, and he'll definitely be a head coach in this league. But he was fun to talk to, and I always go in his office, and he would try and teach me things and just blow my mind at what those coaches know. And then on top of that, I only really knew Eightman, and I knew it, very minimally, right? I mean, come on, I just called some plays while I was in high school, but that was an 8-man stuff, and it wasn't very, intricate, so to speak. So
you were literally finger in the dirt.
Yeah, well,
you go here,
we had
you go
our
there,
scripts, but yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it was pretty. It was pretty primitive.
Sandlot,
but,
that's awesome.
Yeah. So it was fun. But yeah, and then not even, I understand the 11-man game, but I think there's probably 8-year-olds that could call plays better than me with their Madden skills and everything. I mean, they're, saying, well, this, and that, we got over this and over that. And I'm like, oh, yeah, come on. I'm just a punter.
Okay. This is a good setup then, and a good segue. Yeah. So how does somebody become a punter and not only become one, but become as good as you were?
I always felt like I was the right place, the right time for me. And I just admit that, but at the end of the day, things have changed so much for kids being punters and kickers. They start young. We didn't start young. You look back at a lot of the guys that punted, came into the league when I did and before, and we were all some sort of, I was a track guy / I played quarterback. I wanted to play another position, all that. Some of these kids now, or most of them, they start out and they start training as kickers and punters and going to camps as middle schoolers and definitely as high schoolers. And they get into these ranking systems, and they go to college that way and so forth and so on. So you're not seeing a lot of guys that were, another position in college. I mean, Dirk Johnson was the guy that I punted against in college, and he was actually a safety for Northern Colorado. He played for the Eagles. We kind of started out the same type of path. Matter of fact, he was signed by Seattle, I think, after I was. And, he made it through and ended up going to the Eagles, got to play in the Super Bowl, all that stuff, but he was a safety in college. So, Josh Bidwell went to college as a linebacker, and he ended up punting. So, those types of things, they just don't happen anymore. So for me, how I became a punter, obviously, is kind of what I talked about. It just kind of lucked into it. And there wasn't a punter on the college team. So I wanted to play. And nothing, the only thing I cared about was being on the playing field on Saturday. Like, I don't care if you put me as the wideout that never, ever catches a ball. I'll find a way to prove to you I can. But if it means being the punter, great, I'll be the punter. And it just happened to be that. I can still remember to this day, coach announcing the travel team for my first year in Pittsburgh, and we were going to go to Fort Hays State, and it was our first game. And being out there nervous as hell, thinking, is he going to name my name? Am I going to get to go to Hays? Am I going to get to play in this game? And he named my name. I was like, oh my God, that was awesome. So I got to travel. It was like a 7-hour bus ride, and I was wide-eyed and, getting to go out on the field, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. So to answer your question, if I ever thought I'd play in the NFL at that point, no, but had a good game, and things just kind of rolled that year. We ended up playing in the national championship, and didn't quite make it, win it, but that was a great experience.
I was going to say, and to be a punter, especially back then, compared to now, you didn't have I don't even think there were then, when you were playing in the NFL, actual punting coaches. You basically were all repetition, right? And just that's the only way you could get better, right?
There were a few. There were a few, and I actually had one there at college that he was kind of, actually he helped me a ton, and his name Sam Adams was his name, and I give him credit.
Not that Sam Adams,
but not that Sam Adams, no, but that's easy to remember.
Right.
We did have some good jokes that, but you know, when he got a hold of me, I was kind of shanking him everywhere. And you know, we cleaned that up and I started punting the ball pretty well. And there were a lot of things that I had to change even when I went to Seattle, but he got me in a place where I could hit a ball a long way. You know, maybe wasn't very consistent, but I was able to keep up my numbers. When I got to Seattle, Jeff Fiegels was a huge impact on me, watching him saying, okay, what am I doing wrong? And Pete Rodriguez was a special teams coach, and I was kind of dropping the ball with two hands and just can't do that. It's that left hand's got to be a guide hand. And I was just pulling the ball inside a lot, which I struggled with my whole career of dropping the ball inside. Most punters, if you see them pull the ball to the left as a right footed, that just means the ball dropped inside. And, you know, it was tough for me to ever really correct that. But Fiegels was big, you know, watching him and trying to learn. And so I had 2 good solid training camps with him to be able to kind of punt beside him and learn how to control it.
It is really remarkable though, because there is a science behind punting. Like you wouldn't
think,
like, you know, the way you described it, the way you drop the ball has to be a perfect way for when you, I mean, and it sounds exactly like a golf swing. I'm sure that analogy has been made all the time, right?
Oh my gosh, all the time. And it's funny you bring that up. I had a buddy I was going back and forth with yesterday because his son's trying to make the golf team here at the high school. And we were talking about, he asked me, he's like, he was asking me about the mental side of kicking. And I said, you'd be surprised. It's so similar. I didn't realize so much respect for professional golfers. I mean, those guys, they do it. I mean, if they have a bad shot on hole 1, they've got to really ramp back up. Not only that, they got to forget about it, go to that same second shot on hole 1, but then they're going to go play a second hole and then 18 more. I might have 6 kicks in a game. Now, I better not have 5 bad ones. I better not have more than 1 at all. You know, preferably you have a perfect game, but you got to have a short memory. And you know, there are a lot of similarities there, and
the physics too, right? I mean, the physics in terms of like the swing of your leg,
timing,
right, all of that.
Yeah, it's all timing, and you don't have to be a huge guy. You don't have to be a huge guy to be a big punter or be a good punter. And that was another thing coming in my career. A lot of coaches felt like you had to be 6'5" and, you know, have this long lever that they, you know, whatever. But that's not true. I mean, it's a lot of timing and just you know, being able to hit the ball correctly. A little torque, leg speed. That was huge for me. I always felt like if I lost my leg speed, I was in trouble, which luckily I never did. I think a lot of it was, you know, there's a lot between, you know, this is what I tell my son right now. It's all right here, you know, between here and here, you know, because my body wouldn't hold up now, but I think you get to the point where you try too hard sometimes and go out. I mean, I would love to go out and kick. And I had as much fun practicing kicking as I did playing golf. I would go out and kick for 2.5 hours and just love it, you know? But I wouldn't be able to do that now probably, but it's a fun sport.
So you mentioned Coop. What kind of a coach / sports dad are you?
You know, we're getting there. He's loving sports a little bit. You know, he's kind of getting into it. He's never really been a huge sporty kid. But he is enjoying it, and God, kid's got a great arm, I think. And so I try to not coach, you know, too much, but it's, you know, I think any dad out there could say it's tough to coach. You know, it's hard. You're at home. It's better to see him be coached by somebody else. And but yeah, he's a lot of fun. He's at a fun age, man. He just started middle school, and you know, it's a good place for him. It's been fun to watch him grow up.
For sure. So you are growing up, and I'm gonna get back to football because this is so great.
Yeah.
Obviously, my good pal Brian Moorman here on Bull in the Basement. So you're in Ponte Vedre, Florida, Oceanside Golf Community. You mentioned golf. Sawgrass is there. Players Championship, TPC. So let me ask you this.
Sure.
How many times have you played that golf course, do you think?
Stadium course?
Yeah.
Well, counting like scrambles, because I'll go and support, you know, I try to play in the J Fund tournament every year, which Tom Coughlin, a lot of respect for him and what he's done to help kids with cancer. And then there's a couple others that I go play in as well. So I probably play on the course 2 or 3 times a year.
Okay.
But just in scrambles, but playing by myself and actually keeping score, probably only 3.
Okay.
Maybe 4 times over forever.
So if I'm the guy on 17 at the Island Green, I'm the guy that's I'm putting my Pro V away, man. I'm putting a range ball on that tee because I'm so intimidated by that water around the island, man. So my question to you is, what's your percentage of on the green or depositing golf balls?
I'm probably higher percentage depositing golf balls. Yes, it's you wouldn't think it'd be that difficult, and but then you could watch the guys here for the tournament, and my gosh, they have, depending on the day and when the wind's blowing, it's even harder. But you think it'd be easy, but it's a tough shot, but it is fun. That's the one that everyone looks forward to, and we did a piece with the Bills when I was playing, and we went and played it. And actually, Amber, my wife, played with me, and she parred it that day, and I hit it in the water. I was like, she still holds that against me, but but it's a fun hole. That whole stretch, 16, 17, 18, it's fun. And then, of course, everybody gets to see it on TV, so everybody knows it. But yeah, it's a difficult shot.
So you have now segued from football into, you've done a little bit of coaching here and there, you've dabbled, but your primary now source of income and what you're doing to keep yourself busy is real estate. So how did you get into real estate? Did you pass the test on the first go round? Like, are you loving it? I know I've been to where you live. I know there's a lot of super cool high end places that you're probably are on your radar that you're probably, selling. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, believe it or not, I got my real estate license, my last training camp, there with the Bills. Obviously, we have a lot of time on our hands as specialists. Everybody else is in meetings. We have one meeting, and then that's about it. We'll go watch film with coach or whatever, but then just what else are you going to do? And my brother-in-law is a real estate attorney, and I would always pick his brain, and we'd be talking. He's like, you really ought to get your license, and then just you'll know people, just refer it out. Refer out some business. And I was like, well, yeah, I'll do that. I mean, so I sat and I did the course online in training camp, and made out some note cards or whatever, and didn't think I was gonna not start using it after that. And I ended up obviously not playing that year, so I just came down and went right into it and started kind of dabbling in it a little bit. And then my first customer, I mentioned Nathaniel Hackett actually a little bit ago. He got hired for the Jaguars, and I called him that spring. I was like, I think it was probably February after that season. I saw he got hired. I called him. I was like, hey, you want to go find a house? He's like, absolutely. So we went out and started looking, and I started working, and I started grinding, and kind of put it together, and everything's kind of been going since then. So pass the test first try or whatever. It's pretty much pass fail. They tell you, okay, yeah, you passed. So I have no idea what I got, but but yeah, I mean, it's you get through that, and then I became a broker, and I got partners. I own part of the brokerage here with Sotheby's International Realty, which I think is a fantastic brand. It's really the only brand that fit for me coming from the NFL. I thought, it's a high-end luxury brand. Focus on luxury properties. We do everything, but kind of focus a lot on service more than anything. But at the end of the day, I wanted to focus on high-end homes, and there's a lot of similarities, I thought, in starting that business as in trying to make it an NFL for me. And I think I look back at that, and I look all the way back into people saying, "Oh, well, I know you want to play college football, but it's really hard." To be a kicker in the college. So don't get your hopes up, And I actually had a junior college coach in Kansas say that to me. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'll play. That's fine. I'm going to go walk on. I'm going to play. And I played. And then there was the kicker in Seattle that I'll never forget him pulling me aside my second training camp with them and say, hey, Brian, you might want to start thinking about how long you want to chase this pipe dream. You might want to start thinking about what else you want to do. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm not quitting, and, so I kept plugging away, and then, I finally made it, and got lucky enough to make it with the Bills. And then my brother-in-law, who's a real estate attorney, is like, well, I know you want to get into high-end luxury homes, but you might want to just kind of, just know it's tough to get to those. And I'm like, I'm selling high-end luxury homes. I mean, those are the people I'm going to surround myself with. So it's worked out well. We've done a good job. We've got my own group that I work with. We've it's been very obviously a good couple years real estate wise, and a lot different we thought it would once COVID hit. But that being said, even before that, things are going well. I've got some great people in my brokerage. I've got great people on my personal team, and it's been very good. in terms of it's like I said, a lot of similarities, even in the sense that with NFL, you've got 17 paychecks that you've got to save. You don't know what's coming in real estate. So you got to be able to juggle that and make sure you're budgeting and, spending what you got to spend for advertising and so forth. So I felt like football really prepared me for this type of business.
I can't imagine. How cool would it be? You talked about maybe doing some stuff in Buffalo, but like going to an open house and there's Brian Moorman standing there welcoming you with, here, can you fill out this little paperwork and we'll get you some information. And here's the handout about the house and all of that. That would be pretty neat.
It's nobody really down here knows me.
Right.
And, obviously it's a different market, but it would have been fun to do some business up there. And, I was telling you offline that, one of my business partners actually lives in Buffalo. He's one of our partners here at First Coast Sotheby's in Ponte Vedre Beach in Jacksonville. We have 5 offices down here. So if anybody's watching this and needs a place in Florida, feel free to give me a call. I'm happy to help. I mean, that's my business. So you can find me on the internet for sure. And we do have a lot of people from Buffalo down here. You'd be surprised.
Yeah.
I mean, I do meet a lot of Bills fans and it's great. But Lou Izzo is his name. He lives in Buffalo there and still commutes down here to us. And he's been integral in building our company down here. I came up and met with him whenever I bought into the business here and hired him as a consultant. And eventually he bought in because we saw what our market could be. And so we've been building this down here for the last, probably 4 years now. And it's gone really well. So I'm happy to have him on our team as well.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, with the real estate thing too, and having that connection, I'm curious whether or not there will be an HGTV show with you, like former pro football player, former all-pro, is now this really successful real estate guy. Like I could see you totally doing some sort of a punter hunter or something like that, like Brian Moorman's Cribs or something.
Mm-hmm. That'd be kind of cool. Well, right? I got to be honest. I guess, I have a cousin that's in the business in New York City and she's editor for a lot of things. And we always try to come up with ideas for shows and whatnot and, toss it around. But at the end of the day, I mean, I suppose it could work, but, gosh, I can only imagine having cameras follow you around all the time. I'm kind of I don't know, at work and then come home, be with a family kind of guy. I think it'd be really hard to have a camera in your face all the time. I mean, kind of play into that, you and I, we did that show together for a while I was there. And we did some pieces and it's, I'm sure a lot of it's got its own staging or whatever to it. I'm just not that good at reality TV, and trying to play up that kind of things. It probably wouldn't be my cup of tea, but it could be fun.
Hey, listen, you weren't supposed to be a college punter either.
That's true. That's true. Maybe. Yeah, it's true.
So I want to go back to punting.
Yeah.
How many NFL special teams coaches actually know anything about punting? I mean, most of those guys, or a lot of them anyway, were position coaches that, were moved into being special teams coach. So what do? They study up on special teams. And then, they say, okay, we're going to punt left, punt right, punt long, punt short, directional, whatever. Right. I mean, how many of those guys are real, scientists when it comes to what you did?
Very few. I mean, I will say this, after you've been around it for a long time, you're a great extra pair of eyes. So you can see, oh yeah, you definitely, you're dropping it inside. So you're able to, it's like, again, you go back to golf, you're with your buddy that you play golf with all the time and he sees you doing something that you're not normally doing. And he points it out and you're like, oh, you're right. And then you start hitting the ball straight.
Yep.
But for the most part, most guys aren't like they've never kicked a ball or whatever, but some, Gary Zahner is a former special teams coach and he's done really good coaching guys. He studied, the art of kicking and, whether you're overstriding, he's got some measurements. He's done really well training some guys. So he's done that after his special teams coaching career and he still does. But I think that a lot of special teams coaches are very good at, being an extra pair of eyes, but from the standpoint of actually being able to say, okay, I'm going to coach kickers and punters after, I'd say very few could probably do that.
Yeah.
But there's a couple.
Tell me about wearing a shoe that's a size one or two size smaller, and what the benefit of that?
For me, well, I just felt like it was better around my foot. Not everybody does that, but I always had done that. I mean, even in high school when I was kicking, I was playing quarterback and wearing an actual kicking shoe on one side because I knew I'd have to go straight to kicking a field goal, so I couldn't have time to change my shoe. So that was kind of odd, but yeah, so I wore a 12 on the left and a 10 on the right. But I would change into a 12 while we were on defense. I didn't want to wear it around, mainly because I didn't want to stretch it out because I've got weird feet. They just get all stretched out and weird, and I want the shoe to stay straight and new and fresh. So I'd probably change out shoes every 2 weeks or so, maybe 3, and then put on a new one again. And but I would only wear it when we're on offense and or when I'm kicking. So if I went out right now, and I was pretty sure I shrunk my foot over the years, so it was fine. Never really felt tight until now. I go out, like I told you, I went out a couple of weeks ago, and it's like, oh, my toe is killing me. So it's not shrunk anymore.
How much did it hurt kicking a football in cold weather?
Not really. Everybody thinks you're kicking a brick. It just doesn't carry the same. You slap the ball a little bit more, but it doesn't really hurt. It's just it just doesn't carry the same. You're just not going to hit the same huge balls that you would when it's nice and hot and sticky.
Everybody remembers the Sean Taylor Pro Bowl hit, obviously. Mm-hmm. And it
took you this long to bring it up.
If you listen, well, we've talked about it a million times.
Yeah.
But if you've never seen it, just YouTube, Google Brian Moorman, Sean Taylor Pro Bowl, and you'll see for yourself. I understand. Help me on this. That was a fake punt called by now Coach Cowher. Was that right?
No, Belichick.
Belichick. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Shocker.
Yeah.
Shocker. Belichick.
Yeah.
Of course, the Patriot coach wants to get the Bill Putter hurt.
Yeah. Well, I can vouch for him. He did not. We worked on a little bit during the week in the Pro Bowl, and the funny thing is that was when Coach Drawn was our coach there, and we ran that play how many times? I mean, he would coach, but Bobby April was one of my favorite coaches, and owe him a lot too. He was he got it. He get with kickers and punters, it's like, which way do you want to kick? I'm like, well, coach, you better kick it down the middle, and the wind is blowing, so it's going to drift to the right. So why aim right and have it go out of bounds? And he's like, well, do it, kick it down the middle then. And if it goes down the middle, we'll cover it. And so he was great. He didn't overthink anything, and so anyway, he was ballsy enough to call fake punts, which I think was really right up my alley. I loved doing that, and so anyway, that was our play. Run it to the right. If it's not there, kick it. Well, I would never kick it. I'm running it. I'm trying to get the first down. I don't care. Kicking it was never really a thought in my mind. But I remember Belichick telling me, he goes, well, let's run it. If it's not there, just kick it. And I remember thinking, Coach Drawn's going to be pissed at me. We're using our play with the Patriots. Right. I'm like, I can't kick it. I was like, no, I'm not kicking it. Well, this was during practice or whatever. I'm like, yeah, whatever, coach. I'm not going to kick it, but sure. Anyway, we get in the game and we're about to go out for a punt, and he looks at me, he goes, you want to fake it? I was like, well, yeah, I mean, of course. I mean, this is my shot, and then we get out there, and not a soul was like pinning their ears back to come after us. I mean, they're just standing there.
Right.
I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, I'm done, So, and then, I've told this story 1,000 times, but I took off and I was like, I'm just running out of bounds. I'm not, if I can kick it, I'll kick it. But again, I saw this thought in my head. I don't really want to use the play that we always use and have coach see it or whatever. So I'm just sprinting, and then I see John Lynch just out of the corner of my eye come and kick Derek Brooks out. And I'm like, I got it. So I cut off of him, and that was it. It's the last thing I remember. Yeah. And I watched that. And it's funny because Cooper brings it, he showed it to me a couple of times, but it's my 15 seconds of fame. And it's been I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's been 14 years.
And the crazy thing is, and the coolest thing was, because nobody ever does this, but after the play, you go and find Sean Taylor.
Yeah.
Good hit, pal. Good hit. Yeah. Whatever.
Well, I figure it's a Pro Bowl, he's acting like crazy that he just took, this 170-pound soaking wet guy and crushed him. And I was like, well, I'll tell him good hit. It's a Pro Bowl. We'll have fun with it, Right. So that was, to me, it's like, hey, and plus, he needs to know I got up.
Right.
Yeah. It wasn't that bad of a hit.
Hell yeah.
I mean, if you watch it in slow motion, you see him kind of shake his head. So I really put one on him.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really put one on him.
Yeah. Let's speak of a slightly more positive play in your life. Talk about, and I know you have not one, but 2 touchdown passes in your career. But one was probably the most famous as far as I'm concerned, the one to Ryan Denny in the scoreboard end zone. It would have been, if you're facing the scoreboard to the left corner. Talk about how that play played out.
Yeah, actually both were to Ryan Denny, and I believe both were in the scoreboard side. One was against New Orleans and one was against Seattle. One was a fake. Well, they were both fake field goals. First one was, we left him. Ryan came in. He came into the huddle and then he ran out with everybody. It was the old, trickaroo, and he's standing out on the sideline and they didn't see him. And I know that made Mike Holmgren mad to no end, because I was in camp with Mike Holmgren. So I knew that he was very adamant about, seeing things. Every coach is, but he was not happy. But he and I can remember too, just telling myself, don't overthrow it. Just don't overthrow it. Because you get so excited, you get all amped up. It's like, just lob it out there. I would love to throw it on a rope and look, awesome, like I'm some, like I look like a quarterback, but I was like, I'm just going to throw it over there and let him catch it. He did. The other one was a little more fun, because I got to roll out and, Ryan kind of faked through his kick, and then I roll out behind him and then, was throwing a little bit more on the run. But again, it's like, just don't overthrow it. And I still watch that one back, and Denny comes like within this far of being out of bounds and not scoring. So he did a good job of staying in bounds. And so that's a lot of fun. I got taken out on that play too. Jonathan Vilma, he was the linebacker that came and crushed me after I threw it, and I was sore for a week. I don't know how those guys do it, man. I mean, I couldn't hardly get up in the morning, and that was from one hit. So
good. Another great segue. So for you only made, well, I'll ask you, do you know how many tackles you made in your NFL career?
No idea. I tried not to.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. So you made 8 tackles in your entire NFL career. Okay. 8. So when you had to make a tackle, what's going in through your brain? Like, it's probably the last thing you want to even think about doing.
Kind of closing my eyes and hoping that he cuts back into the inside. I mean, everyone thinks, oh, Brian was this tough guy or whatever. I was like, man, I did not. Those guys are solid. And I'll take you all the way back to the first game I played with the Bills was against the Saints. And I don't know if you remember. Do you remember the return man they called the beer man? Because he used to be be in the stands and was the beer man. And he made the Saints as a return man, and he was playing that game, and my gosh, it was like hitting a brick wall. I mean, he came busting through. I was doing kickoffs at the time. That's when I had to tackle him, and he busted through. And I was like, I'm a tough guy. I got to prove my worth. It's my first year with the team. Danny Smith was our coach, and he was tough. I mean, he was always in my ear. And man, if I didn't go in there and stick my neck in there, he was going to be all over me. And I went up there and I tried to put a lick on that guy, and I was out. I mean, it hurt so bad, and I just jumped up and went to the sidelines. I was like, I don't think I can think straight the rest of the game. Right. I mean, he was solid. And, Darren Sproles was a lot like that too. I think I took a hit with him one time, and I'd like to think they felt it. I'm pretty sure they probably didn't.
So for any of you weekend athletes that are watching this that think that you could just step on the football field and make an impact, sounds like probably not. Sorry, your dream has been disintegrated by Brian Moorman. Have you seen Garrison Sanborn's Super Bowl ring?
I haven't seen it yet, but we do work together. He's in real estate now too. Yeah. He's with our company. And so I get to see him quite a bit, but he's on the other side of town, and he's doing great as well. So, but yeah, we've talked about it, and I'm super happy for him. It was pretty awesome.
Well, he was very fortunate, and that's a whole different story. I do anticipate having Garrison on at some point in Bull in the Basement.
Awesome.
I'll tell you what, if you're a former Bill and you want a Super Bowl ring, where do you go? You go to Tampa. That's what Rob Johnson did. That's what Shady McCoy did. That's what Garrison Sanborn did. So, hey, ex-Bills, if you're still in the league, go to Tampa. That's where you're going to get your ring, right?
Yeah. So I kept saying last year, I was like, dang, I'm going to get in shape. You never know when somebody's going to be out for COVID. I can hold it down for a quarter or two.
Right.
I mean, 4 kicks is probably all I really need to do.
Right.
I can go in there and do that. But not a huge market for 45-year-old punters right now, I don't think.
You never know, man. You never know.
You never know.
So we mentioned you're in Jacksonville. I still hear Duval in my head, in my sleep from the playoff game a couple of years ago that I was, oh my God, that was the most annoying thing and still is to me to this day. But talk a little bit about what the talk is in Jacksonville. I mean, what are they saying about Urban Meyer? What are they saying about Trevor Lawrence?
Well, I think there's a lot of excitement. I mean, it's different. You know, they needed something like that in this market to kind of excite the fan base, obviously. I mean, we went through a lot of years of that in Buffalo of trying to figure out, okay, what we need a franchise quarterback, or, we went through a lot of coaches while I was there. And every year, though, there was always optimism. I felt like there's always more optimism in Buffalo for a season than there. I mean, every single year we thought, this is it, we're going to the playoffs. It didn't matter how bad the year was before, but in Jacksonville, there was really I never sensed that there was that optimism every year. And I sense it this year. Now, that being said, I think there's some, well, I mean, maybe it's just me, but you got to obviously look at it and say, okay, there's a lot of things that they got to do to be pretty good, but can they make that jump from, worst to first or whatever? Some teams have done it. I mean, shoot, you look at the Niners a few years back. I mean, they made that leap with Harbaugh or whatever. And so I guess you never know. It'll be interesting to see how their offense responds and plays, but a lot of it's going to come down to the improvement of their defense, in my opinion.
And obviously, obviously there hasn't been excitement in Buffalo around this team really since the Super Bowl years. And obviously you keep tabs on the Bills, and the expectations are probably the highest they've been in a quarter century, right? I mean,
yeah, oh, no question. I mean, I obviously I've only been to Buffalo once in probably the last year and a half or two. I mean, obviously with COVID, we stopped traveling, and I was able to get back there briefly for a charity event for the Punt Foundation a couple weeks ago, and which was nice. And the excitement is awesome, and yes, there are a lot of expectations, but I mean, as a player, that's what you want. I mean, you want to have high expectations. That's what you strive for. I mean, the last thing you want to do is, just people wonder, if they're good, great. If not, whatever. I want to be expected to go to the Super Bowl. And, this is the first year. And I think last year there were some pretty high expectations, but I think we expect, we want them to go to the Super Bowl. I mean, it's not easy. I mean, it's hard to win in this league. It's every week. You think that, you could lose any game. I mean, every team has the same, they watch the same tape, and they've got great athletes. It's just a matter of how it's put together. So, you could see a team like the Jets really make a rebound, or the Dolphins going to make a new, step in the right direction. They started kind of going that way, what's Belichick got up his sleeve this year, if anything at all, I mean, but at the end of the day, I feel pretty good about our roster. I feel pretty good about our team, and I love what Coach McDermott's doing. And, I've had an opportunity to do a couple calls with him and some other guys, alumni, and listen to him. And, it would have been a lot of fun to play for him. I mean, I think that he's a great coach. He knows how to motivate those guys. He's got them going in the right direction. Brandon Beane too. They just seem like they really work well together. He's really enjoyed talking with him too. And, I think the Bills are in good hands for a long time. And now it's nice to see that they got Josh locked up. I think he's kind of the guy I've been looking for, and he's great for Buffalo. And then, right down the board, I mean, you look at the roster, got a good group of guys, it seems like, and they're doing a great job, and I'm excited for them.
Yeah, for sure. It's actually fun to be chased instead of being the ones doing the chasing, right?
It is fun because, even here now, it's like, I keep a Bills magnet on my Jeep. I mean, I'm a fan. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I mean, I love it. And, you Bills fans honk, or whatever. And, or you see, it's funny in my business too. I have a 716 number. So people recognize that and they're like, oh, Buffalo. Yeah, go Bills, so it's pretty cool. Yeah,
for sure. This has been absolutely phenomenal, and I hope to do it many more times again. And I took up way too much of your time, clearly.
No, not at all. I could talk another hour, but you got things to do. So,
well, you got houses.
I definitely appreciate you having me.
You got houses to sell.
I actually do. I got a guy, I got one under contract this morning, or a contract in. So I got to talk to a client that's over in Spain, and he's just
gonna talk to some guy in Spain.
Yeah, see if we can get that deal done.
Hey, is Dorenbos a better magician or a long snapper?
Well, I mean, he's a pretty damn good magician. he's pretty impressive, but I mean, the guy played 16 years in the NFL or whatever it was. He did pretty good. But he's pretty impressive. I mean, you don't go on America's Got Talent if, without being great. So, but yeah, he's another one I love staying in touch with. He's the type of guy is like a random Tuesday sometime you'll get a FaceTime call and it's Dorenbos. Hey, I'm just sitting in the pool and call and say hi, look who I'm with. And it's a buddy that we, both know or something. It's just, but yeah, always love hearing from him.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, we always love hearing from you. I'm glad you could be on Bull in the Basement, man. We will definitely do it again. Best to Amber and Coop. We love you in Buffalo. Get up here as soon as you can. I know,
man.
With the variant and everything, the COVID's all kind of still getting weirder again, but whatever.
A little weird. Yeah.
But
that's a whole nother podcast. Bull.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, listen, be safe. Thanks for taking the time, man.
You too.
We love you.
Thanks for having me, and go Bills, man. All right.
Bills.
See ya.